Filing this paperwork is kind of like surreal. The fact that I'm not going to be married to him, and I have for 13 years. I just have to trust that Garrick's not leaving me, and remember that living a plural lifestyle, it's about building our family.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. So, Seeking Sister Wife, after a 2-year hiatus, is finally back. It premiered on Monday the 22nd, and it's going to deliver. I'm so excited. Seeking Sister Wife has been one of my favorite shows on TLC. If you guys are watching this because you're subscribed to this channel but you haven't seen the show, I highly recommend start with season 1. What is most fascinating to me is they find people, usually when we are talking about sister wives or polygamy, we're talking about Mormons. But really on this show, on this season, there's only one Mormon family. There is another family, the Merrifields, who we're going to talk today, who are Christian and are claiming to be called to this lifestyle for their religious reasons. But the rest of the couples have other reasons why that they are interested in plural marriage. And it's really, really fascinating. So I highly recommend that you watch the show if you haven't already. So let's talk about the Merrifields, because when I did my intro video to the cast of season 3, I said that this was the family that I was most interested in watching because there is a lot of dynamics at play here, a lot of factors that I just kind of leave my jaw open. This is the 90 Day Fiancé crossover that we have seen teased in the gossip blogs. So let's just back up a little bit. So this is Danielle and Garrick Merrifield, and they have been married for 13 years, living in a monogamous marriage. So they are Christian. They never mention that they're Mormon, so I believe that they are some denomination of Christian. And all of a sudden, or maybe not all of a sudden, but after 13 years of marriage, Garrick has felt the calling to live a plural lifestyle, and Danielle is being taken on the journey, is how I am viewing this, because that's how the vibe I get from watching the show, which a lot of people have opinions about, and a lot of people have been like, this doesn't seem super like both parties are equally on board with this, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. So right off the bat, like I said, I don't feel like Danielle had the same calling as Garrick to enter this lifestyle. And even Garrick himself pretty much explains this in the least convincing way possible about how he felt the calling to live a plural lifestyle. Just take a look at this clip.
And we decided 2 years ago that God wanted us to live a plural lifestyle. We don't come from a polygamous background, but we believe in the Bible, and multiple people in there had multiple wives. Gee, the people in there are godly people, and God loved them. So I then realized God wasn't against that.
Essentially what he's saying, and there are other Christians that aren't Mormon that also feel the way he feels, so he's not the only one, but kind of that it's in the Bible, so it has to be okay. So let's just go through some historical, religious background on polygamy, because for me, I grew up Christian. I actually grew up Lutheran, which I'm going to touch on in a little bit because I learned some information I didn't even know. But polygamy is not so much associated with other Christian denominations besides Mormonism. So I just like Googled, and I was like, I just wonder, like, is this a thing in other religions or other denominations and not just Mormons? So all hail Wikipedia. I know, I mean, they're not like a scientific journal or anything, but you know, you get the gist for the purposes of this YouTube video. For Catholics, the Catechism expressly prohibits polygamy. However, there are some Roman Catholics in Kenya that do practice polygamy. For Lutherans, Martin Luther had a lot of issues with the Catholic Church and things they were practicing. And so, you know, the 95 Theses, he nailed to the door of things he wanted to see change within the church. He ended up being excommunicated. It's a whole historical seminar. But essentially, Martin Luther was really focused on what is in the actual text of the Bible. What does the Bible actually say? So he didn't want to expressly come out and say that polygamy was wrong or bad because it is mentioned in the Bible. So he didn't endorse it, but he also didn't expressly forbid it. So there's kind of a gray area there. The modern Lutheran Church does not permit polygamy, but it does allow converts in some regions like Liberia and Southern Sudan to retain their wives if they were married to them before they converted. So there seems to be kind of a cultural meets religious compromise happening in some areas. We know in Kenya, there's Roman Catholics. In Liberia and South Sudan, there's Lutherans that practice polygamy and still practice their religious beliefs, even though the two don't one doesn't necessarily feed the other. It's culturally appropriate and acceptable in those regions. So those churches say, okay. It seems like most Protestant and Anglican denominations do not practice polygamy. And those that do are not practicing it out of any kind of official church doctrine. Now, a lot of the Mormons that still practice polygamy believe that when the Mormon church said no to polygamy in 1890, it really was because Utah was trying to obtain statehood and not because of any real revelation. So that's what they kind of fall back on there. I am going to link the Wikipedia page that talks about polygamy and Christianity. It's actually a pretty interesting read, and it links to like a bajillion other sources. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole, I highly suggest it. So what do we know about the Merrifields? Well, they met at church, they married young. Kind of reminds me of Ethan and Olivia Plath in the sense that they didn't expressly state it, but I get the feeling they got married because they wanted to have sex, date, be together. And it seems like they both came from pretty stringent religious upbringings. So they started dating when Danielle was 18 and they married when she was 19. Now here's what's going to come into play with all of this and what's going to really shape my speculation on what is happening here. They have talked about divorce in the past, not even anything to do with plural marriage or having to get divorced in order for him to marry someone that's from another country. They just have talked about divorce in the past because marriage is hard. The first few years of marriage is hard. The first few years of marriage as teenagers has to be incredibly difficult. So it's been not all rainbows and butterflies for these two, basically. Danielle is incredibly emotional too. She chokes up a lot, and we're at the beginning of this journey. And it's hard for her to even talk about the concept of a sister wife. And now here they are in the thick of the process. It's kind of wild to watch. This is the question that I asked myself. So the show was an hour long. So with commercials taken into place, I think it's like 40 plus, let's say 45 minutes of actual show content. They dedicated about 11 to 12 minutes to the Merrifields. You can tell these are going to be a highlighted couple. This is going to be where all the drama is, where everyone's talking about. So watching their scenes, they were the opening couple and one of the closing couples. So watching their scenes, my biggest question is Danielle just capitulating and agreeing to this sister wives thing because Garrick is unhappy in their marriage and this is a way to save it, or a way for him to agree to keep their family unit together? They do have 2 kids. That was just the immediate question that popped into my head. Let's take a look at this clip. I think it's very clear that a plural lifestyle never entered her mind prior to Garrick bringing it up, and that she is having a hard time adjusting and will continue to have a hard time adjusting to this new dynamics. Just take a look at this clip.
I think the first few times that Garrick started talking about men having more than one wife, I was shocked, you know. I didn't want this lifestyle. I wasn't like excited about it. I don't think I fully understood what it meant to have a sister wife, and it was a little hard at first sharing Garrick in that intimacy. I cried and I had a really hard time. The only way to get Roberta here is for Garrick to legally marry her and for her to be his wife.
There's only absolutely one option, and that is for
us to get a divorce.
Yeah.
It definitely took us a few months to settle on that fact.
Another thing that I found interesting is that they initially tried to have Roberta come over on a travel visa, but it was denied. But maybe that was just to initially meet her, or I'm not 100% sure, because a travel visa or a tourist visa is not a permanent visa. So they would have had to explore other options anyways to have her permanently stay in the United States. But so she was initially denied. Are they going to have issues getting a K-1 visa if they are open polygamous? I guess, you know, they are all consenting adults. And if they're legally, they say that they consulted a lawyer. So I'm assuming that I'm speculating on something that's already been discussed. But in my mind, I'm like, so many people have issues with obtaining the K-1 visa, solidifying or verifying or proving the validity of their relationship. If this dude has a whole ass other family, are they really gonna buy that he is divorced? And I don't know. That's just my wild speculation. But I do know that they already saw an attorney, so they have to have sorted that out and have faith that this is really a legitimate option. In the teaser for this season, we see them at the courthouse finalizing, signing off on their divorce. And Danielle is incredibly emotional. She doesn't like hearing about them being intimate. She doesn't handle that well. To me, she, like as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, looking at her reaction, to me, none of her body language or her reactions say, yay, plural marriage. This just does not equate to me at all. This seems to me, and I'll see if I'm wrong, and I'll see if it plays out differently during the season, but to me, this seems like something Garrick is interested in and wants to do. And it seems that Danielle is going along with this to save her marriage and save her family. That's the vibe that I get, but we'll see how this plays out. Let me know what you guys think. What did you think of the Merrifields? We're going to be talking about the other couples as well, because the Clarks are really interesting. The Joneses are really interesting. We have the Winders and the Snowdens both coming back. The Snowdens. I could go on for an hour about the Snowdens. Did you guys know, just quick, I don't know where I saw this, I think on Reddit, that they made Vanessa sign an NDA? So they're allowed to talk about her and talk about their breakup on the show, but she's not allowed to talk about it. That seems really grimy if that is true, but I could be spreading bullshit right there. But I think I read that on Reddit, so I don't know. Maybe I'll try reaching out to her on Instagram and see if she'll talk to me. And if she doesn't, then that's why. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel. I got a lot of content coming for you guys coming up. I have some Love After Lockup content coming too, because we're still monitoring the situation with Puppy and Maurice. I'm trying to work on some interviews, so we'll see if those pan out. But just stay tuned and make sure you subscribe to this channel. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Reality Squad. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Take care. Much love. Bye-bye.